Well, she's joining us right now. The great Angie Mentink
Still
of
a
Root
tough
Sports.
cookie.
Angie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Wait a minute. I got in late. Was I violently attacking?
No, I
somebody?
was telling Brock. Well, we were talking about people who played their characters so well that you hate them forever.
Despise.
And I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones person. I imagine you are because everybody is.
Yes.
I mean, Joffrey,
Yes.
you could never watch that kid in anything ever again, right?
I think he stopped acting,
He
didn't he?
did
Yeah.
because he's such a. And I said the reason he's so awful is that everybody knew a Joffrey in their middle school, and then I suggested that maybe Brock had that kind of same look, and that maybe Brock was sort of like the Joffrey of his middle school.
Just to the girls.
Over there at
Just
Ezra Meeker.
Only to the girls. The girls hated me. Because Angie, 1-on-5, I beat them. I just said I could beat your whole 7th grade girls team by myself, Doris Bender. And then I went on to compliment you and say, if Angie had been on that team, there's no way I'm winning. Because she'd have undercut me. She'd have elbowed me in the ribs.
Yeah, not true, though. I'm actually a horrible basketball player. We try not to let the kids even see me.
Oh, wow.
Shoot. I'm really a good defender. I'm a really good defender. But yeah, I got that squatty body, get down low, good defender. But yes, it's terrible.
I can relate to that.
It's absolutely terrible. And I have 2 good basketball playing boys too. So
What else did you play besides baseball? What else did you play?
I played tennis in high school. I played volleyball in high school, and I was the first female to letter in football at my high school.
How about that?
Yeah.
Running
and
back?
softball, obviously. I was a linebacker, outside linebacker, and a wingback on offense.
I can see that, and I bet you were nasty too. Like, people got to know what kind of athlete Angie is. I don't always tell the story, but I've mentioned this before because I know. Look, Angie, you're killing it in the new gig, and we want to talk all about it. And obviously, we're here to talk about the Mariners. But a few years ago, we all took batting practice. The whole media was invited out to take BP at T-Mobile, and everyone's, embarrassing themselves in various ways and trying to relive their glory, try not to get hurt. And Angie was wearing, I don't remember the shoes, but they were either flip-flops or heels. They were not the right shoes. And she was I'm not going to participate. No, I don't need to do them. No, I'm good. You guys do it. I get to hit all the time. Well, she finally gets guilted into taking a few swings and just starts lacing line drives all over the ballpark. It was a show. And she's wearing shoes that no one should be wearing to play baseball in, and it doesn't matter because she's still that nasty.
You're so sweet. They were high heel boots, I think. Yes.
Angie, we'll stop embarrassing you. Let's get to your specialty and let's talk about these Mariners and less about what you were like as a hitter. When you watch them hit, what looks most different from what we had all watched previously?
Gosh, I know, and listen. I'm going to give props where props due with Edgar Martinez, but Edgar has always sort of been in there, kind of whispering in the ears, in the background. Last year, in the previous years, I really believe that Kevin Seitzer has had a huge impact on this team. And the thing that I love about this, and this is something you guys know, good coaches are those people that can, look at what's happening and make that little adjustment. I mean, I remember this story about Luke Raley, and if you've seen Luke Raley, play the game when he was healthy, he's just a ball of tense. And so, I mean, Seitz goes up and takes both his arms and shakes both of his arms out and makes him get all loose, and then puts the bat in his hand. And he's like, all right, now engage the core. So it's getting him to engage the core so he takes the tension out of his arms. And it's just his ability to see what needs to be fixed, make it simple, put it in words and terms that the player, can understand and then incorporate. I've really been impressed with Seitzer, and he's just I adore him. And then Bobby Magallanes, his assistant kind of comes in there and fills in all the little gaps, and he's the guy that wants to watch video for hours and hours and measure this and measure that. But I just think the two of them working together has made a really huge impact on this offense.
Angie, I know you filled in last year a bunch as well, and you did so well. It opened this opportunity this year to be in a much more full-time basis up in the booth. And I've always said there's a big difference between being in the studio and actually out on the road. And, when you get to be in person and you get to meet the coaches and you get to travel and you get to see all of that. So I'm kind of curious, is now you're kind of full-time out of the studio and you're traveling with this team on a regular basis. What has jumped out to you in this experience?
Well, I mean, it's different, I think, Brock, in that, I would travel with the team from time to time, but as a host.
Yes.
And, traveling as an analyst, and I will say that, Edgar's always been fantastic whenever he's, with the team. Seitz has been fantastic. The players are really open about sharing what it is they're working on, what it is they're doing with me, what they're swinging, why they're swinging it, what they feel. And that's kind of continued to really sort of, grow as I've, sort of pestered them more about these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's that, just the understanding. And then Pete, Pete Woodworth, goodness gracious, he's fantastic. I hope that if he ever stops coaching, he just comes straight into the booth, like just come to the dark side.
Well, it kind of fits into a question I was going to ask you.
Articulating the game. Yeah.
Sorry, we lost you for just a sec, but it kind of fits into a question I wanted to ask you, which is, who are you learning from on this team? Which players, which coaches, who are you kind of talking to and learning even more about the game from?
All of the above. And they have been so great. I mean, Trent Blank's been fantastic. Bobby and I sat down for like hours, and just chatted hitting, concepts, different guys, what they do well, what they're working on. Seitzer, like I said, every day he's there. If I just have a little quick question about this, that, or the other thing. So, Dan obviously is great. He chats with us every single day. Tony Arch. Everybody. Everybody has been great. And it's kind of, I say this all the time, the best coaches are the best thieves. And I love just stealing wisdom from, players, coaches. I love this game. I love breaking down the game. I love figuring out what makes people successful at, something that is just so incredibly hard to do in hitting. Perry Hill. Perry's my buddy. So yeah, yes, all of them. So they've all been absolutely fantastic with me.
And this is no slight on anybody, and Angie Mentink here with us. This is not a dig on the past at all, Angie. And obviously Scott, I think we all felt like was a tremendous communicator as well. He was an open book for us and just a great guy as well. But is there a little deeper level of maybe that communication throughout the entirety of the staff? We've heard about Dan empowering players as kind of a similar vein and really empowering maybe the staff as well to be open and transparent.
I think that this game is just, every game is. So I don't care, if you play a sport at the highest level, it's just so difficult. And I think, the one thing about baseball is just the grind. It's, the grind of 162. And if you, are going to wear yourself down into a nub, you're not going to last over the course of this season. And I think that that's sort of the same, with the people around you and the staff. And I think there's, it's just there's just a different vibe. And I think that Scott maybe in some ways was like more clear on what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. where Dan is really sort of, more collective, like, hey, what do you guys see? And, relying on those people that are sort of responsible for all their different things and really taking in their input. And, ultimately he's going to make the decision, no doubt about it. But, those people are in those positions because that's what they excel at. And so their voices are really critical and really important.
It has been interesting since you bring that up. Some of the in-game decisions have been certainly different from the way that we've seen them made over the last however many years. And I don't know that I agree with a lot of them, but they're all seemingly working, mostly because the players are making them work. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with everything you've just talked about, the communication and the preparation, everything that happens ahead of time. In your time and all your years playing, did you ever think much about managerial decision-making in games while you were playing?
That's a good question. Yes, I think I did in the sense like, most of it, I think is when you're a player is I wouldn't have done that. It's not so much what you would do, but like what's coach doing here, or what's the skip doing here. So I think that would be the extent probably of my thinking about managerial decisions. I mostly was always thinking about what I would throw, or what would be difficult to hit in a certain situation. So even though I was never a pitcher, I sort of always kind of thought the game that way. I could see how to set up a hitter. So I think my thought process went there. So it was more, I would say I was more like a catcher, if you will, even though that was not a position I played.
More important for a modern manager to do the in-game stuff and be great at the in-game decision-making, or to be a communicator, setting the philosophy, et cetera?
I think that I think it's probably, both of them are really important, but at the same time, I think the atmosphere. I just think it's so incredibly important that players don't play tight. I think that there's only one way. It's like I talk about like skiing. If you've ever been skiing, you have to point your skis down the hill. You can't be back on your heels. There's only one way to play this game, and you have to be fearless. And I think that it's really important that, a manager or whoever your coach is, that you work with the most, makes you feel that you can play this game, fearlessly. And then, sometimes you're going to guess right. Sometimes, it's not going to work out. The other day, Dan went to the bullpen early, with Emerson, and I was like, wow, okay, and it worked out, and it was great. He's going to make decisions, and they're not going to work out. And sometimes, we've looked and we've been like, well, that's an odd one, but also, most of the time he's making somebody has been in his ear, somebody has given him some information, and then, whether he uses that information, goes with his gut, he is given that information, and, more times than not, that is heavily influencing the decision he ends up making, even if he is leaning more towards his gut.
Angie, there's a long list of really pleasant surprises through the first 50 games here. Brian Wu being the ace of this staff. What Cal is doing is the fourth best player in all of baseball from a WRC plus. Mooney on the back end of things, of all of the pleasant surprises, and even some of the guys that have been called up and filled some valuable roles. What has been in a couple of the most pleasant surprises to you?
There's a lot. You bring up Wu, and I've been thinking about Wu lately because we keep talking about it. He's been the ace of this staff, and I'm like, I kind of asked myself, like, if Logan was healthy and Kirby on the other side, like, would I still be saying that? You know what I mean? If they were doing their things, because that's sort of what we expected to see. Not one of those guys. We expected to see really 3 or 4 of those guys. And so, as far as the guys coming in that have filled in, Logan Evans has been, I've been impressed with his resiliency. I see what Emerson Hancock has been able to do. His velo is stuck. It has, maintained since spring training. And when he's hitting 97, that makes, all those swing decisions that much harder. For the hitter, I think about Gabe Spire and where he is and how he's bounced back. Munoz is sick. And then, I would say the collective bottom of the order has been really impressive. And we saw it again, sort of, the Garvers, the Rivas's of the world, even some Miles Mastroboni. If you're going to win, you're going to need your guys up top to do it. You do their big things, get the sock, get the home runs, but you've got to have that bottom contributions, and they're doing that. J.P. Crawford, he's only got 4 home runs. I swear, it feels like it's more than that. But he's done a really good job with runners in scoring position. That's a huge stat. I love all of our nerd stats, but runners in scoring position is still one that I kind of really, focus on. And what do you do when it matters? And that's been a really pleasant surprise is the J.P. Crawford in the season he had. Because I have to admit, at the end of last year, I was worried a little bit,
Mm-hmm. I don't think you were alone. I think there were a lot of people that were pretty worried. So we just have another couple minutes. And I know we've talked about this and we've had you on before, but it dawned on me as you were on doing the broadcast last week that I don't know whether everyone knows your baseball story. Right. I mean, just as it's the part of the reason you're in that booth and why you are as credible as you are, why we love listening to you, why you know the game so well. Could you give the 2-minute version of your baseball journey for people that either haven't heard it or don't remember it or just like to hear you talk?
And kind of have it end in the high-heeled boots. Yeah, have it end in the high-heeled boots BP show you put on.
My Ron Furley sniff. All right, here we go. No, I obviously, grew up playing softball because that was sort of, what was, available to me. At the time that I sort of pivoted and went to baseball, I was an alternate for the U.S. Olympic team for softball. I just, finished playing at the University of Washington, had a pretty solid career there. And I either was going to go play Olympic softball. If I signed up, the way things were back then, if you signed a professional contract, you were no longer eligible to play for the Olympics. Well, it was just a no-brainer for me because as a kid growing up and 3 brothers, all of them played baseball in college. My dream was to, be that first woman to play professional baseball. So to go and sign a contract to the Silver Bullets, was just like a dream come true. Thousands of women, all over the country at different tryouts. I tried out in Everett and made it to spring training, hundreds of women there, spring training for 24 spots, and ended up making the Silver Bullets and got to play for Hall of Fame knuckleball pitcher Phil Niekro. Joe Niekro was our pitching coach. Johnny Grubb from World Series Detroit Tigers team was our hitting coach and our outfield coach. Poor guy, just a Georgia Southern gentleman. Never heard the words coming out of these women's mouths that he heard. The Silver Bullets, and just, toured the country and played against really good teams, some really bad teams, AAA teams, Australian Olympic team. We went over to Taiwan, played against the Taiwan Major League, just a whole bunch of, baseball in a few years. And Phil Niekro, he and I did so many different, things together, and I have bar tricks to last me the rest of my life. And he was a fantastic, really amazing person. But yeah, just playing baseball against men for 2 years, and just having the time of my life, and then came back and started covering the Mariners. And 28 years later, here we are.
Amazing. Yeah,
Which
that's cool too that all the other women were, had foul mouths and you were just there, just
right? Clean them up.
not part of that. It's amazing how that works.
Angie, which
A shining example.
That's you for the children, for the youth.
Last question for me, Ange. Which current Mariner, or you can go into your 28-year history Mariner, did Angie Mentink's professional game most resemble?
Oh. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I sound like I'm like this. Okay. So this is a funny story. The other day, somebody added me that this chick at Oregon was 15 stolen bases away from Angie Mentink's Big Ten record. And I was like, what did you just say? Like, my Big Ten record? Well, yeah, because I had 59 stolen bases at the UW. It was beaten by a gal from Arizona who got 62. Well, guess what? Now the UW's in the Big Ten. So apparently my 59 is the conference record again.
Oh, you have the Big Ten record.
Yes.
Exactly.
Even though you never even played in the Big Ten.
Never played in the Big Ten. Never played in the Big Ten. This is just fantastic.
Wow.
But I mean, all the UW records go, and I don't know where you are, Brock. I don't know where you are. Maybe you should look into it, where you are in the Big Ten record book.
I'm sure he's very high in the Big Ten. They haven't had a lot of good quarterbacks, so Brock's probably pretty high.
Okay, so my point is, I was a singles hitter with a really high average. I think my career batting average at UW was 429. I am a singles hitter. Every once in a while, pop one. I still steal a lot of bases, and nothing drops in the outfield.
So you're Ichiro.
So that's what I was just going to say. I'm like, I'm Ichiro.
Yeah, you're Ichiro.
Yes, Ichiro.
Yeah.
Well, nobody said that you're Ichiro. Absolutely.
I am not a Hall of Famer, but I'm saying my game was a lot like.
How many hours do you spend stretching every day? Is it Ichiro like? Also, have you thought about wearing a full uniform up to the booth, much like Ichiro would do?
That would be good.
All
that
right.
would be good.
Angie, it's been great.
He's a legend. I am not a legend. I just meant.
I don't know. I don't know whether I agree with that. You're the Big Ten steals leader, and it's been a blast listening to you and having you on the broadcast this year. Continued success. Thanks for joining us, and we'll make sure to do it again soon.
This was absolutely delightful. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, there you go. There's Angie Mentink of Root Sports. And I do think it's important to hear that story. Not everyone does know it, and certainly a lot of the younger people who were tuning into a baseball game don't necessarily know the Angie Mentink story. And, when you hear people complain, oh, what does she know about baseball? She knows a lot. Yeah. Angie knows a lot, and she's lived it, and she's been around it, and she's experienced it, and I think she does a great job.
She's gained the trust of all of these coaches,
100%.
Which is an analyst. That's what you got to do. That's what I always